You have everything. You have teen moms, fighting chicken, row operation, demolition derby, surrounding this absolutely insane murder. It's possibly the most insane case you're ever going to hear, and it happened a mile up the road from me. There is no good way for me to sum this up in any kind of speedy fashion, so sorry. George Billy Wagner III, one of 4 members of the Wagner family, accused of murdering 8 members of the Roden family in their sleep, in their beds with their babies, will in fact be eligible for the death penalty in Ohio. This case happened April 22nd, 2016 in Piketon, Ohio. This was in Pike County. Sometimes it's called the Pike County murders. Sometimes it's called the Piketon murders. This, to this day, is the worst murder in Ohio history, with 8 members of one family being wiped out in one night. Here's the absolute basic outline of the people that we're dealing with. There are so many other people in this story. But to get there, we have to go back to the beginning. Now let's talk about Billy Wagner. Billy Wagner is married to Angela Wagner. Together, they have 2 sons, George Wagner and Jake Wagner. We'll get back to Billy here in a second because we have to talk about Jake Wagner and Jake Wagner's extracurricular activities. Jake Wagner really liked a girl named Hannah Roden. Hannah Roden was about 7 years his junior. He met her when she was 13, and they had a baby together when Hannah was 16. So there's some math you can do. They did, in fact, have a daughter while Hannah Mae was underage. Those are just the facts of the case. Jake Wagner and Hannah Roden have a 3-year-old daughter named Sophia. Now, let's jump over to the Roden side of this equation. For the sake of this video, we're going to call her Hannah Mae because there are 2 Hannahs in this video, because of course there are. We're going to call her Hannah Mae. Hannah Mae is 19 years old, is the mother of 3-year-old Sophia and 4-day-old baby Kylie. Hannah Mae is the daughter of Chris and Dana Roden. Chris and Dana are divorced, but they maintain a really good relationship with one another, going so far as Chris had just bought Dana a new home on Union Hill Road. Chris and Dana have 2 other children. They have 20-year-old Frankie Roden and his fiance, Hannah Hazel Gilly, another Hannah. So for the sake of this story, we're going to call her Hannah Hazel. They also have Chris Roden Jr., who is 16 years old. Chris Jr. is still in high school. Chris Roden, the father of Hannah Roden, is friends with Billy Wagner, the father of Jake Wagner. Jake and Hannah have baby Sophia. I really hope you're following this because it's about to get worse. They have some dealings, not exactly on the up and up, not exactly, above board, if you catch my drift. And this is a well-established business between the 2 of them. And honestly, I could go really deep into this as well. But for the sake of things, they had a business relationship. Chris Roden did have 2 other relatives that were victims in this case that branch off of him. Maybe overlap with others, maybe don't. That's not relevant to the story. Chris's cousin, Gary Roden, is visiting from Greenup, Kentucky. And Chris's cousin, Kenneth Roden, lives down the road and is also allegedly involved in business ventures with his cousin and potentially other people in the area. What had happened was, and this has been proven in a court of law for everybody but Billy, somewhere on the night of April 21st into April 22nd of 2016, 3 of the Wagners, Billy, Jake, and George, went over to Chris Roden's house where they murdered him and his cousin, Gary Roden, that was visiting from Greenup. They didn't know he was there, but he was there, so he was murdered. They then went next door to Frankie's house, murdered Frankie and his fiancee, Hannah Hazel, in bed with their 6-month-old son who was nursing his mother. There was also a 3-year-old in this home that answered the door the next morning covered in his parents' blood. After leaving Frankie's house, according to the state, the Wagners then went to Dana Roden's house, where they went in while everyone was asleep and massacred everyone in their beds. Dana, Chris Jr., and Hannah Mae, in bed with her 4-day-old infant. And according to Jake, he positioned her body so that the baby could continue to nurse. So there's that. They then left Dana's house, went to Kenneth Roden's house, and murdered him as well. They then staged Kenneth's murder to look like a drug deal gone bad by throwing money all over his body. All of the victims were shot execution style, with the exception of Chris Sr. and Gary Roden. They would not have seen the attack coming. Chris Sr. and Gary, on the other hand, that trailer was a mess. There was a lot of forensic evidence in that trailer. It took almost 3 years for the Wagner family to be arrested. In that 3 years, Ohio BCI followed them pretty closely. They did a lot of sketchy things. This went on for a long time because this was the onion of all onion layers. This family is white trash Disneyland. And I am not over-exaggerating that. All of that to give you an update on the most recent news regarding Billy Wagner. Billy Wagner was arrested November 2018 in Lexington, Kentucky for the murder of 8 members of the Roden family. And I know you have to be thinking, what would a motive possibly be for one family to murder all members of another one? The Roden family was murdered over the delusional thoughts of the mother, Angela Wagner, who was projecting her own childhood essay onto her granddaughter and was convinced that this granddaughter was being harmed by the Roden family. They have since determined there was no such abuse. This entire family was massacred for control and paranoia. The case has drug out for 10 years. The 10-year anniversary of this crime is in April. 3 of the other 4 family members have already accepted pleas or have gone to trial and been convicted. Surprisingly, Jake Wagner was the first one who cracked and took a plea deal. Because Ohio is a death penalty state, in exchange for a life sentence, Jake agreed to testify against his mother, his brother, and his father if necessary, and to admit to the crime and to testify in front of the family with the details of the crime. Now, you can scroll back to his sentencing hearing because that was a shit show. He basically decided to start preaching to everybody. And I'm sorry, sir, but you are the last preacher I'm going to listen to. Shortly after Jake took his plea deal, his brother George went on trial. Angela took a plea deal where they dropped the murder charges against her because in the state of Ohio, you don't have to pull the trigger to be found guilty of murder. You can know about it before or after and do nothing about it. So Angela would have been convicted as well. The only trial left is for the father, Billy Wagner. And while the other Wagner's cases were held in Pike County, Ohio, Billy Wagner has managed to get a change of venue through to the judge, although it is being challenged by the prosecutor to a higher court. The other judge that heard their cases has since retired, and the former prosecutor has moved up to judge. He cannot hear this case as he was prosecutor at the time of the crime. It's a conflict of interest, so we have a visiting judge, Jonathan Hein, H-E-I-N, who is hearing this case. This judge and the prosecutor, the special prosecutor from the state, her name is Angela Canepa, they do not get along. Not even a little bit. This judge has come under fire for, against the family's wishes, agreeing to a change of venue that the defense filed for. Also, dismissed the death penalty against the family's wishes. They want the death penalty, citing, quote, trial delays and litigation. Angela Canepa went above this judge's head to the 4th District Court of Appeals. He cited judicial malfeasance. The higher court ultimately agreed with her, reinstating the death penalty for Billy Wagner. Because of the issues with the judge, Angela Canepa is also filing appeals to this higher court about the change in venue. The Roden family specifically does not want a change in venue because they attended every day of George's trial. They didn't miss anything. They were there every day in support of their family. And taking this to another county, the county that I heard thrown out was Muskingum County, which is a good couple of hours away from where we live. That would be almost impossible, if not very impossible, for this family to do. Billy does not have a trial date set yet. However, with this ruling coming down about the death penalty eligibility, this clears the road ahead for the trial date to be set so that we can get this show on the road. It's been 10 years. This family deserves justice. The grandmother of the Roden family is still alive, and she has been attending hearings and proceedings. This woman has buried 2 generations of her family. She wants to go to the trials. She should be able to go to the trials. I hope for the Roden family's sake that we do start making some kind of progress on this case. It's been really frustrating to see it drag out as long as it has, knowing the pain that it is causing. So we do finally have some movement, and both of which are pretty good with the Wagner trials. Billy Wagner is now death penalty eligible, and this clears the way for the trial date to be set so that the trial can commence. I feel like this case didn't get a lot of attention because it was just a bunch of poor hillbillies from Appalachia and nobody really gives a shit about us. As soon as they found out about all of, their business dealings, it was over for them. It wasn't going to get the attention that it deserved. Despite whatever they may have been doing, they were all massacred in their beds next to their sleeping babies for no reason. And I'd also like to remind everybody that I am in fact not a cop. I am not a detective. I'm not an investigative journalist. I am simply a nosy bitch. I cannot solve these crimes, but I can bring awareness to these crimes so that the people who can solve these crimes can have the help that they need. I will see you all later. Love you. Bye.